Hello, my name is Erica Austin. I will be presenting Philosophy of Education for 21st Century Church and Society, ICAM 807, Philosophy of Education, Dr. Carol Scott, at the Interdenominational Theological Center, Atlanta, Georgia. Philosophy of Education is the philosophical study of education and its problems. Economic, technological, and societal shifts are happening at a pace that continues to escalate. We live in a world where change is constant and learning never stops. In this presentation, I will address two issues in the philosophy of education that is pertinent to both the church and society. The two major issues for discussion are equity in education and education work-life balance. Since the days of Socrates, philosophers have been concerned with the concept of justice, and different views of justice give rise to the different views on matters central to education, such as equality and equity. In our previous meeting, we discussed definitions of educational equity and education work-life balance, our responsibility as leaders of God's people to prepare our members, students, and society as a whole to be a good citizen, one who can engage civically, to think critically, be digitally literate, be globally aware, and to communicate effectively. We also discussed obtaining these goals by engaging in student-centered philosophies of education. Student-centered philosophies of education include progressivism, which focuses on developing the student's moral compass, humanism, fostering each student to their fullest potential, and constructivism, which focuses on using education to shape a student's worldview. However, we cannot accomplish these goals without incorporating two vital tenets of philosophy, which are analysis of teaching and the ethics of care. What is teaching? On one level, teaching is an occupation, a way in which some people make a living. Philosophers would begin questions about teaching acts, what teachers do when they teach. Philosophers wonder about the conceptual connections between teaching and learning. Susan Lyard states, students are people with real lives, real issues, and real challenges. Therefore, teachers must consider the human predicaments faced by individual students, making a personal connection to their lives. Teaching students self-respect, how to get along with others, how to stand up to injustice is not entirely an intellectual task, but it is life-changing, and it is, in Lyard's perspective, real teaching. The ethics of care. The ethics of care implies that there is a moral significance in the fundamental elements of relationships and dependencies in human life. Normatively, care ethics seeks to maintain relationships by contextualizing and promoting the well-being of caregivers and care receivers in a network of social relations. The receptivity of caring is directed inward and becomes a new dimension to critical thinking via self-understanding and acceptance of subjectivity. A positive form of critical thinking should lead to greater study and the use of interpersonal reasoning. As we understand ourselves better, we may increase our motivation to understand others. As we engage in caring forms of interpersonal reasoning, we should gain a deeper understanding of ourselves. In the analysis of education, it is good to try to uncover meaning and reveal conceptual errors by exploring how terms are actually used and by establishing limits on appropriate use. But another way to analyze education is by examining lived experiences. Sartre says, I think, therefore I am. But practices connected to Ubuntu, I am because we are, is a communitarian option that can be used in the analysis of education as well. Phenomenology reminds us that we must approach education in terms of what it means to the unique world of each person. No incident, object, or experience has the same meaning for two different people. Analytic philosophy prizes detachment and the search for a neutral form of truth in language or the real world. But critical theory insists that such detachment is both intellectual and morally irresponsible. It is imperative that we connect critical thinking and social justice to moral and values. If not, we may not be able to see or possibly ignore the inequalities and the lack of equity in education. Aristotle may not have seen the evils of slavery because he did not connect critical thinking and social justice to moral and values. As leaders, Tahopet, an ancient Egyptian vizier, is an excellent example of the type of leaders and or teachers that we should aspire to become. Tahopet states, "The wise are known by wisdom, the great by good actions, their heart match their tongues, lips straight when they speak." If we lead and teach by Tahopet's standards, we can combat educational equity and promote a healthy education work-life balance. My own statement of educational philosophy is philosophy of education is the study of teaching, learning, and the exchange of information to assist in creating a just educational system for all people. Thank you for your time and attention.